Hey, what's one change that you could make that you think would make you happier, but you haven't done it yet? On this episode of Level Yourself Up, I'm going to talk about that and give you some thoughts and ideas of things you can do. I am John Budd. I'm your host of Level Yourself Up. I've been doing this podcast for several years. It's been a little bit of a hiatus this year due to several remodeling and stuff going on. So let's ask that question again. What's one thing that you think would make you happier if you could get it done, but then what's stopping you from doing it? Now, first, let's talk about what is happiness and that fulfillment. I think we got to be real careful that we don't just go off the emotional high of a feeling. We can get our emotions involved and we think that's just happiness and joy. But the Bible often tells us that our joy comes from the Lord, and our joy should be something inside of us, not something external by getting more things, getting a house, a boat, and a car. Now listen, I think we've all been through those. You get a new item, you're excited to have it. It can bring you joy, sure, but that joy is short-lived. So what I want to challenge you with in this episode is that what is that one thing 30 to 90 days from now, if you could change, you would have more peace and contentment and that inner joy in your heart. So I don't know what it is for you, and I can only give you some thoughts and things to think about to help facilitate that. Like for me, it was real important for me and my wife to get this basement done so I can get my studio back and get our house in order. Now, there's this definite internal joy that I was talking about, like getting a car or a boat or a house. So getting that complete, and that is short-lived. In a few weeks, we'll get this organized and, that will subside. But true joy and happiness is, are you happy with yourself? How do you mentally feel about yourself? Do you love yourself like you do somebody else? And I think a lot of times we're so hard and negative on ourselves, and we speak bad words. We speak negative words to ourselves, whether it's with our mouth, but we definitely think them. And the Bible says that as a man thinketh, so is he. And I think we ponder these things in our heart. So as we shift and go through all this, what is happiness? Happiness is more than just, like I said, that fleeting thought, but involves a deep sense of contentment, satisfaction, and a meaning of life. And I believe that we all are designed to serve people or others in other ways. And I think we get the most satisfaction in life when we are serving others. And that can look like many different things, in our job. Whether you're a school teacher, you're serving children. Whether you are a mental health expert, you're serving people. So there's many different ways to serve. That should be niched in your calling, not feel like that's something you have to do or need to do. You got to want to do. So I think you first have to kind of figure that out for yourself. I can give you the definitions, but it's that inner contentment. And I think that as a Christian, my relationship with the Lord is what brings me the most contentment. And it's not works. It's not about going to church. It's not even about how much I read my Bible. It's not how much that I do things. I love having conversations with people that are different than me, as long as we can have this love, if we can just have respect for one another and communicate back and forth. I just had a conversation this past week with a guy that we definitely had different views of opinion. And, I think we both walked away. We had a great conversation. It wasn't a battle. I wasn't trying to convert him. And I don't think he was trying to convert me. It was just a good conversation. And that is where we need to be. And that's kind of me. I'm just sharing a little bit about me and what makes me happy. And I love helping people. So one of the other things I'm doing here, you'll see going forward, is I help creators and other people do stuff online. And I love helping them with either IT or community, building community, even bouncing ideas off each other. So that's my passion. Like I get a good drive, and that's my calling. That's this internal thing that I almost can't help. Like even when I don't want to do it, I have this drive to do it. I can't explain it. I think we all, at one sense or another, have that. And with that, I don't want to go down this rabbit trail, but when you have these callings, you can let it burn you out. So with all this, there's boundaries. And we can talk about that on another episode. It's one thing would make you more content or happier, but you're kind of avoiding doing it. Just think about that. And then probably first, what is your idea of happiness and what's it based on? Is it based on your values or based on somebody else's expectations? You'll never be happy if you're living to somebody's expectations. So we have to get to the place where we are living out of our values. And then what excuses are you telling yourself that's delaying the progress? And like for me, I can have excuses as I'm not good enough, I'm not ready to do that. It's kind of like excuses for not making this podcast, quite frankly. I didn't have a studio. I put off that the walls weren't painted and didn't have a good place to do it. And that was my excuse for most of this year. And could I have done something different? Absolutely. But I let that limiting belief hold me back. And I probably shouldn't have done that. I really kind of realized that towards the last few months is as I was thinking about topics I want to talk about, that boy, I could probably done it from my office at work. I could have done it outside. I could have just done it here and hung a sheet behind me. There's several different ways. It is what it is, but I had to figure that out. And so today, I just said, I'm making this podcast. I kind of drew a line in the sand. I'm just going to go do it. And then also think about if you made that change, what would your life look like in 30 to 90 days? Now, some of these I'm talking about transformative changes of like, for me, maybe it's stopping a habit. Maybe it's making sure I have work-life balance. And I think that's hard to do in today's age and definitely have to have boundaries. But if we set those boundaries up, so that could be one change that you could make is to set boundaries up and then transfer that open time to have better time with your wife. Maybe it's just alone time, or maybe you're going to want to get more sleep. I'm going to tell you another thing that affects me more than anything is a lack of sleep. If I don't get sleep, I can be a bear to be around, just grouchy and irritable, even to myself. Like I can just not be happy with myself. So I have found it's important for me to maybe go to bed early. It's important for me to try to get good quality sleep or even take a nap. Through all this basement renovations, there was a couple times on an afternoon I would lay down, take a nap, power nap, and then come and work. So it's fitting yourself and not worrying about what other people are thinking. We got to start living our lives to our core values and our belief and what makes you internally happy. Because if we don't, you're never going to be happy being forced to do something. You're never going to be happy if you're just told to be happy. That's something you can't just generate. Think about this. We've all maybe lost loved ones we care for, and it's hard to be happy in those times. It's hard to put on a fake smile and act like everything's all right because your mind is so consumed with the loss and the mourning. But we have to step above that and walk through that grief cycle so we can step above it, because it's just not like flipping a switch. Now that's a kind of a crude example, but it's a good one. I think another thing is getting out and getting walk and exercise. When you separate yourself from whatever it is that's limiting you and you do something different and you get away from that, ideas will flow into you how to do it. A lot of times when we're in the grind of trying to figure out how to solve a problem, whether it's internally in our mind, sometimes we need to go rest. And I've said in the past, it could be walking outside, could be physically taking a nap, it could be just spending time with your spouse. But when we get and do something different, then you'll see that ideas will start flowing and coming to your mind. I do think we have to stay in a very positive, in a place of gratitude. That is really really important too. Through all this is, what are you happy for? If you want to change, and I really can't think of a good example that's generic, but let's say I just want to be more positive, then wake up every morning with that list of gratitude and saying, walking through that I'm thankful for being more grateful, even if at that moment you're not. And if you start speaking that to yourself, because I believe life and death is in our tongue, that we start speaking life into ourselves. God, thank you for making me more powerful. Thank you for making me more grateful. And thank you for, when I say more powerful, what I meant there was, thank you for making me more aware and powerful in who I am. I believe there is power in us that flows through us from our Father, that if we allow him to flow through us. So sometimes my vocabulary and the way my brain processes stuff I see God as all powerful. So I want him flowing through me, giving me wisdom and answers, not me coming up with it out of my own mind. I think it's important to have our own ideas, but sometimes we need discernment whether to say those things or not. And sometimes it's easier to cover things with silence. The Bible says silence covers a multitude of sin. And then there is a time to speak with wisdom, speak with knowledge, and to share what's going on. So where would you be if you could change that habit? Number 5 is, what do you need to let go of? And I've kind of been talking about this in between, but what do you got to let go of to make room for that new person you want to be, that person of happiness and joy? I think we got to reevaluate your beliefs, reevaluate your habits, your goals, and the roles you play. You need to reevaluate all that and make room. Maybe it's what you do in life is too busy. I think we can all be very habitual characters. Once we get a habit, we kind of follow that routine like we're on autopilot. But we got to make space. So if, like, one of the things that's important for me is to lose some weight. And so I'm got to carve out time to make sure I eat right, carve out time to get the right exercise. So that's an example there. So what is it one thing that you would like to change? I'd love to hear what you would like to change about yourself. So we all do want happiness, and I think the Bible invites us to get happiness from joy and fulfillment. Getting happiness is going to be short-lived when we chase things. So when we walk with purpose, the one that God has created in you, and I believe that everybody in the world is probably walking in a little bit of their calling naturally. In the comments, leave me your thoughts and tell me what you liked or didn't like, I guess. That's okay too. And subscribe and follow me. God bless you, and I'll see you on the next one.